This is Algebra 2 Test 10. We got through 5.6 on our last test. We actually went back to 5.1 graphing quadratics. This is our study guide. Number 1 says find the equation of the axis of symmetry and the coordinates of the vertex. The axis of symmetry is the easy one to find. Remember, x equals, it's negative b over 2 times a. This is written in standard form right now. Remember, standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So if you look at your labels, this would be a, this would be b, and this would be c. So if you're looking for x, just plug in each of those values. Negative b would be negative 5 over 2 times a's value would be 2 times 4. So your x value would be negative 5 over 8. So x equals negative 5 over 8. So it says find the axis of symmetry. That is a vertical line. X is negative 5 over 8 or negative 5/8. So if you would look at that, you don't have to graph it, but if you'd look at it on an ordered plane, like if this was 0 and this was 1 right here, 5/8 would be like a little bit past halfway. So your axis of symmetry would be like somewhere's right there. That is x equals, oh, I'm sorry, on the other side. I wrote it on the wrong side. Negative 5 over 8. Same thing, no, but just on the other side, negative 5 over 8. Be about right there. Okay. But that's not the only thing you have to find. You also have to find the coordinates of the vertex. The vertex is going to be the highest or the lowest point. We can look at this equation and we could tell that the graph is going to open up like a regular U because the a value is positive, 4. Had it been negative, it would open up upside down. We already have an x value. All we have to do is find the y value. So take the original equation, y equals 4x squared, or y equals 4 times x squared plus 5 times x minus 1. But we have a value for x. We just found it. It's negative 5 over 8. So in place of all of the x's, we'll just plug in negative 5 over 8. So you have to square negative 5 over 8 first. 5 times 5 is 25, and 8 times 8 will be 64. Remember, you have to square both of them. 25 over 64. That's multiplying by 4, which is 4 over 1. Plus, we'll do all the multiplication at the same time. 5 over 1 times negative 5 over 8 minus 1. So y equals all that. Yeah, I know it's fractions. It's a pain in the butt. But we'll be able to simplify it a little bit. The number 4 goes into itself one time, and it goes into 64. It goes into 6 once, and there's 2 left over. It goes into 24 6 times. So if you multiply straight across right there, 1 times 25 is 25, and 1 times 16 is 16. So you have 25 over 16. Then we multiply this fraction straight across. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25, and 1 times 8 is 8. Again, we're still dealing with fractions, which most of us don't like to deal with. But we do have 16 and 8, which is somewhat helpful since we can use the common denominator 16 for both of them. So this first one we'll leave alone because it's staying 16. This second one we have to multiply 8 times 2 to get 16. So multiply negative 25 by 2 to get negative 50. And then if we do this other one here, minus 1, we'll call that one 1 over 1. So that one will be 16 as well on the bottom, just so we'll keep all the fractions constant. Multiply that bottom number by 16 and that top number by 16, so minus 16. So even though we have a lot of really what we like to call ugly numbers right there, they'll actually work out okay for us. Watch and see what happens. Leave your common denominator the same. Leave 16 at the bottom and just add straight across. 25 minus 50, which means plus a negative, is minus or negative 25. And negative 25 minus 16 is going to be negative 41. So we have negative 41 over 16 is your value for y. Again, not a very friendly value. On the test tomorrow, I'll try to get us integers as best we can. But as you have your x and your y value, your vertex is x comma y. Just plug those values in. X will be negative 5 over 8. Again, that's just going back to the value we found for x. And y is negative 41 over 16. That's just going back to your value for y. You'd graph, okay, how would you graph that? You'd graph that as negative 5 over 8. You would have to estimate a little bit. Negative 5 over 8 is where we have that axis going up and down right there. It's a little bit past halfway. And then negative 41 over 16. 41 goes in, 16 goes into 41 two times. You get 32. And then there's 9 left over. So it's like 2 and 9 over 16. So that'd be a little bit more than 2.5, negative 2.5. So again, an estimate, which would be 1, 2, 3. So it'd be a little bit more than 2.5. So it'd be somewhere right about there. And we'll have much more friendly numbers tomorrow. But that graph, you have 2 more points. We're not graphing it right now, but it will look something like that, where the bottom of it should come to that point that we just created, a little bit better than what I drew. But the axis is x equals negative 5 over 8, and the vertex is negative 5 over 8, negative 41 over 16. The other ones actually get a little bit easier. It says label the axis of symmetry and the vertex. This one's the same thing, but we have easier numbers with this one. So you're doing basically the exact same thing, except we're going to graph it and then we're going to label it. So you have to find the axis first. It's still x equals negative b over 2a. This is still a x squared plus bx plus c. So take your value of b. It's negative 2. So negative 2 becomes positive 2 on top. Over 2 times a's value is 2. So negative again is positive on top. 2 times 2 is 4. That simplifies to 1/2. So your x value is 1/2. So if we were to show our line of symmetry, it's positive 1/2. So halfway between 1 and 0 is your line of symmetry. That's the first thing you do. Draw your line of symmetry. Then find your y value in order to find your vertex. Your y value, remember, anytime you see something like this, I know we didn't talk about it in this class yet, that just means y. Y equals 2 times x squared minus 2 times x minus 1. Again, we're dealing with more friendly numbers right here. So in place of x squared, plug in 1/2. In place of x, plug in 1/2. Square 1/2. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. That's multiplying by 2. And again, all of this will give you what y is. Multiply straight across. We can cancel some of that. 2 goes into itself once, and it goes into 4 2 times. So straight across, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. These will cancel. 2 will cancel itself, and 1 will cancel itself. So that's minus 1. And you still have minus 1 at the back of it. So y equals 1/2 minus 1, which is negative 1/2. Minus 1, which is negative 1.5. So y equals negative 1.5. So written as we don't usually use mixed numbers like this where you have a large number and then a fraction, but it's actually easier to graph mixed numbers. So we have an ordered pair now. We can create x comma y. X comma y, 1/2 comma negative 1.5. So that's your vertex right there. Your vertex would be at 1/2 negative 1.5. Vertex would be right there. So it says to label the vertex, we can label that with its ordered pair. We just put it just like this, 1/2 negative 1.5. We know that that graph is going to open up. We know it's going to open going up because it's positive at a. 2x squared, its a value is positive. So what you want to do now is you want to come up with tape. Okay, so now that you have your axis of symmetry and you have your vertex, just get the next unit over. And you don't have to go to the like halfway point. Just go to the next integer value, like this value is 1 of x. And this value right here will be 2. We'll plug those values in. That's all you need to do. Plug those values in. So in your original equation, and I'm going to scroll down just to give me a little more room. But in your original equation, y equals 2 times x squared minus 2 times x minus 1. Plug in each of those numbers. So plug in 1, and then do it again and plug in 2. So if we do 1 squared is 1 times 2 is 2 right here, just combining all of those steps. Negative 2 times 1 is minus 2, minus 1. So 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So when you plug in 1, y's value is negative 1. So your x, it's still x comma y. Your x value is the 1 value we plugged in, and your y value we found was negative 1. So plot that point, 1, negative 1. So where 1 is and y's value is negative 1, that's where your first point goes besides your vertex. Do the same thing with 2. When you plug in 2, square 2, you get 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Negative 2 times 2 is minus 4. Minus 1, 8 minus 4 is 4, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So y's value is 3. So again, x comma y, x is the 2 we plugged in. So 2 comma 3. That's your next point you plot. So 2, and then you have to go up a little bit on your graph to get to 3. But you plot 2, 3. So now we have 2 points on the right side of the vertex. Just match them on the other side. You don't have to work anything else. Just match them on the other side of your graph. We know that from the vertex, you go over a half a unit, and you go up to negative 1. And then we go over 1 more unit to get to our next x value, and we go up 3. So now you have 2 points on each side of the vertex, and you just draw your parabola going that way. That's your graph. Luckily, we only have one like this since it took us that long to get through it. So let's see if we can get through the rest of these, at least the new ones. Okay, so it says solve it by graphing. So again, we got to do the same thing, but this one's going to be easier because as it's written in standard form, it's just, we can simplify this one to make it even easier. It says to solve it by graphing x squared plus 2 equals 6. Just simplify this by undoing it because there's no y value. Subtract 2, and you get x squared equals 4. Then we know to undo squaring something, take the square root of it. So x equals 2. And remember, that's positive or negative 2. And we'll actually leave it right there. So it says to graph it, it's not really necessary with that, since that isn't y equals that value. You're just looking for a value, not a graph. X equals positive or negative 2. Because both plus and negative, when you multiply them by each other, gives you the number 4. This one says identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry, and then identify each of the points. So real simple. This one you just have to look at it and see what it says. Your vertex is going to be this point right here. So just label it. That's at negative 1, 2, 3. So negative 3. And positive 1, 2, 3. Positive 3. Your vertex is negative 3, 3. That's your vertex. Then it says label the axis of symmetry. That's this line here. That's your axis of symmetry. That axis of symmetry is just the x value for that. So that one would just be x equals negative 3 if you name that line. Then it says identify what P is and what Q is. So you could say negative 4, 2. And again, all you're doing is labeling that point, negative 4, 2. And Q's value is negative 1, negative 1. That's just labeling that value Q. So that'll be simple for you to do that. Then solving these equations gets back to stuff we did last week. That's all of the new stuff. 36x squared, get rid of positive 4 by subtracting it. So you have 36x squared equals negative 4. Divide by 36 on both sides. And you get x squared equals 4 goes into both of those. It goes into itself once, and it goes into 36 9 times. So you have x squared equals negative 1 over 9. Get rid of squaring something by taking the square root of it. Do the same here. This is the same thing. X equals the square root of negative 1 over the square root of 9. Remember, anytime you're dealing with that negative, you have to take that I value out. So we can simplify the bottom number as being over 3, because the square root of 9 is 3. But we have I times the square root of 1. You have to take that negative value out. So x equals I times the square root of 1, or x equals 1 times I, since the square root of 1 is 1. So x equals I times 1, which is just going to be 1I, or x equals I over 3.